Now, this morning, or actually just after noon this morning, about 12:30 this afternoon, there was a dismissal of a case by Judge Barry Steelman in Hamilton County Criminal Court of a man who has been laboring under an oppression, an official oppression by the police and by the courts upon his ancient right of free movement, a right that goes back to the Bible. To freely go where one wishes to without constraint, without having to ask permission for it. It's a right that most people don't really think about and don't understand exists in fact, and I suggest it exists in the law because the laws that we have in Tennessee recognize the two great categories of people on the roads. That would be the traveling public as a whole, and then the main subcategory, which would be the for-hire use. And Gregory Parker had a prosecution by Chattanooga police officer John Dube in April 17, an encounter where he was arrested and criminally charged with 3 administrative charges. These are not criminal charges. In fact, they're administrative infractions at the worst. But in our custom here in Tennessee, we apply the criminal penalty, including caging, jailing, and the like, to people for their administrative infractions. And Gregory Parker, tell my listener this morning, what happened in Judge Barry Steelman's court in an exchange of words that lasted probably less than a minute?
When they was originally calling names for the docket, when he called my name, I had said I was here by special appearance on that matter, and they made an issue because I wasn't willing to stand. When it got later into the hearing, after we'd had a recess and whatnot, it got back to...
what do you mean after we had a recess? What do you mean we?
The judge called recess. So
okay, but you were not involved in anything but this one minute exchange of words.
Correct.
Okay, so all right, so there was a break late morning.
Yes.
Go on.
I'd say around 11:30. We got back, a little bit before noon. When we got back from recess, he'd handled one other person's case dealing with... some probation issue, and then he got to me. He was like, Mr. Parker, what's this about the special appearance? I don't understand this. And I was like, well, I'm here by special appearance because I'm not subjected to the court's jurisdiction, and this court has still failed to prove jurisdiction. After that was said, he looked over to the Attorney General. Attorney General stood up and
now, that wasn't Neil Pinkston himself, was it,
no.
in your case? No.
And this is the first time I've seen the gentleman, so I don't know his name or anything.
The younger fellow with a bushy beard. Okay.
Yeah. He rose and said that the state is making a motion to dismiss on lack of jurisdiction to where they wasn't able to apply a statute 40-something. I didn't catch the whole deal. I'm actually going to go back and get the dismissal paperwork after it's filed. And then the judge was like, well, I accept the state's motion for dismissal. This case is dismissed.
Okay, I don't understand what this is, Title 40. What's in Title 40? I'm not, is that something in criminal procedure?
I'm not for sure. Originally in Leila Statham's courtroom, she said that they were trying to try me under Title 55, 5504. And as I've been reading through that, there is a title in there. I forget the actual site, but it's 40-something, but it comes in regards to the seizure of my truck at the time. So really, they didn't even bring up the issue about the other 3 charges. It was under the statute they seized my truck.
Right, you were charged with 3 crimes. One of them was driving on revoked driver's license.
Driving on revoked, suspended.
Okay, driving
without or a violation of registration law and without financial responsibility.
Okay, so you didn't have compulsory insurance required of all people in the trucking trades, and then the car. What is your understanding of their claim about the registration? What do they allege you have to be doing with your registered car?
They're telling me I have to have it registered. I was
registered as what?
As state's property, I guess, is a commercial vehicle, and the way the statutes define the way these privilege taxes apply to the registration itself. They're trying to place me into this commercial activity without any proofs that I am in this commercial activity.
So they're charging you before all was dismissed this morning or this afternoon, but they originally were charged, the police, Chattanooga Police Department Officer John Dube, alleging that you were using your car commercially and hadn't registered it in this particular instance. You had not registered your car, your red pickup truck, as a motor vehicle involved in a privileged activity. Is that the essence of what the state is saying in that type of accusation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
which is false, but that is what they're trying to
So the Officer Dube, well, in your arrest, did Officer Dube obtain any evidence of the exercise of a privilege?
No, he didn't.
What kind of evidence should he have gotten if he was going to actually proceed with this case, which he did without it? What kind of data would he obtain?
Weigh bills, bills of lading, passenger list, any other type of list they'd use to document the transportation of goods.
Like contracts, showing that you were carrying boxes or tools from one place to the other for pay.
Or you're employed by a certain employer. You're actually operating someone else's property as employment. And which, of course, he didn't acquire any of these evidences, but the one evidence he did acquire that I handed to him on the scene that he did put in evidence was my affidavit establishing these rights, and he continued with this unlawful arrest. You had
shown me very good and detailed analyses of the law and your rights. Did you, Gregory Parker, have a chance to give to Judge Barry Steelman any of your motions or notices?
Today I didn't. I already had one motion I had filed in the case originally after I'd been charged with allostatum. They come back with indictment without giving me notice, and then I got to looking in. That's how I found out about the indictment. Once I did, I went ahead and refiled the same motion to Neil Pinkston and Barry Steelman themselves, and it was shortly after and then this motion hearing come up today, and that's what they were hearing on was the motion I had filed in previously with allostatum, and of course it was the same exact motion I filed with all three parties.
And so you are prepared for combat, essentially, Gregory.
Yes, if they was willing to deny this motion, I had about another dozen motions plus judicial notices to give them as well. I wouldn't want to just roll over all.
You was done in malice and bad faith.
Absolutely.
Is that
because they, like you said, they've been put on notice. There's no claim of I didn't know or anything with the situation.
No, we didn't intend to violate your rights, Mr. Parker. We didn't intend, and we didn't know you had these rights, Mr. Parker.
Yeah, which is false of them because that is their job is to protect your rights. So for them to openly deny them like that, they are in violation of their own oaths. That's their only job is to protect your rights.
This is David Toulis, and we're here in the studio with Gregory Parker. And also John Lumen. The number to call is 800-8949. We have court action this early this afternoon in Judge Barry Steelman's court, and Neil Pinkston has done the right thing. Neil Pinkston, the district attorney, and his legal cohort refused to prosecute 3 charges against Gregory Parker, the working man in Chickamauga who has a wife, Casey, and a daughter, 9 years old. Is that right? 9 years old, Jocelyn. Now, John Lumen, tell my listener what you've been going through the same ordeal, and I've covered your dealings in detail. Are things getting better in Chattanooga? What are you seeing, John Lumen? You're also a tradesman. You're a kind of a carpenter and do all kinds of things around construction sites. What are you seeing as far as the police, even the courts, turning slowly in favor of the right of free travel, John?
Well, I haven't seen much myself since May 30th, since I haven't been able to travel with the disappearance of my car. So I haven't seen very much firsthand, but it does seem down at the courthouse where the officials are a little more willing to at least observe that the people do have rights. And I think their stance is softening up somewhat out of necessity, since there are people like Greg bold enough to stand their ground and challenge these arrests, which are unlawful in the first place. And they, at the point that someone is willing to stand their ground that way, they can do nothing but dismiss. They can do nothing but concede, because that stance is correct and lawful.
This is David Toulis, and we're talking with John Lumen, and we are brought to you by Chattanooga Florist at 1701 East Main Street, the best florist in town. Get your bouquets, get your special orders at Chattanooga Florist, and do that today. Remember, these are local people That's Chattanooga Forest. Well, John Lumen, you also have a kind of a laconic style about you, and you've taken, I would say, you've taken police abuse very graciously. You're never really angry at these people. You somehow are dealing with them as you might with a slightly defective child. But you told me, and I've reported at TN Traffic Ticket before, that the website is tntrafficticket.us, by the way, that the police and deputies are leaving you alone. You have had on the back of your car a tag that says private traveler, not for hire. And you have a very similar position to Gregory Parker. So what else is happening here? How do you analyze the improvement of liberty, even today with Neil Pinkston rightly dismissing this case against Gregory Parker?
Well, I think the effect that we're having, people such as myself and like Greg, I think the effect that we're having is that the police, the sheriff's deputies, and those people that are out on the road making these traffic arrests are starting to realize that perhaps they are not lawful in their actions many times, and that we are a nation based on laws, and they may perhaps be obliged more so than a common average citizen to obey the law. And I think maybe that is starting to creep into them, which would be a great thing, because they should be maintaining and upholding their oaths rather than violating them at the behest of the municipal corporation. And if that is happening, I'm glad to see it. I had an amicable conversation with Assistant District Attorney Alan Dunn today in the hallway, and I think that is moving forward as a people, and so I would like to see that continue.
Yeah, you're not seen as a crank or some kind of wild-eyed sovereign citizen. You are just a person asserting your common law rights. So for both of you, let me just get this clear. For both of you, you say that you have an absolute right to be on the public right-of-way in your private property, and that you are not subject to arrest or stop unless the officer, what are the conditions where he can stop you, and what are the conditions in which he can't stop you, Gregory?
What is it? 40-7103. There's 11 stipulations for arrest without a warrant. There's only 4 of those where they can arrest you when it comes into using a car. And when it comes to those 4, all 4 has to involve an accident, whether an accident with DUI, accident with a homicide, or leaving the scene, or damages more than
right. There's a
$1,000.
strong limit on. We're talking here about arrest without warrant. This is David Tillis. Mike, what's on your mind?
Yeah, they do realize the occupiers are not going to let you win it in court, right? You guys realize you will never win this in court, right?
We'll never win in court.
Well, because you're arguing the wrong thing.
Go ahead.
Your jurisdiction. Anyone you have registration or insurance?
No, and the Kangaroo court doesn't have jurisdiction either.
John Lumen, what else do you have to say that would contribute to my listeners' understanding of this issue, why it's important?
Okay, so today we are at the United States Department of Justice website, which is located, and this particular page is located at this URL right here, if you'd like to check it out for yourself, which I suggest is a good idea, because it's, say right here, Section 242 of Title 18 makes it a crime for a person acting under color of law. Now that's, your police, your sheriff, your sheriff's deputies, your highway patrol or state troopers, most of the judges, prosecutors, and everybody else involved with charging you with crimes on behalf of the municipal corporation. That's most of those guys there, acting under color of law, suggesting that there is a law that you have violated, when there really isn't any. And an example of that is when police arrest you, throw you in a cage, and perhaps even rough you up because they have decided and made the determination all on their own that you are what they call a sovereign citizen. As if there's some kind of law that prohibits you from determining who you are. Okay? Which there is not. And it says right there, acts under color of law include acts not only done by federal, state, or local officials within their lawful authority, but also acts done beyond the bounds of that official's lawful authority, which most, and a very great many of those acts, are done outside the bounds of their lawful authority. And that is the whole point, the boundaries of their lawful authority, which you can also state as jurisdiction / authority with regard to you. Okay? And they also need to either answer you when you ask or demand to have an answer of what is their jurisdiction / authority with regard to you, or they acquiesce by not answering, and they, by default, it is true, and that they don't have any jurisdiction authority for their actions. And of course, the law also states that silence in response to your demand for evidence is or equates with fraud, which is another thing that many of these people are actively doing. Whoever, under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom, willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities. Can you imagine that? Some of these people want to deprive you of your immunities. Well, don't really need to carry on about that. Secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, and anybody that wants to look for it can find where their immunities are secured and or protected by the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. And of course, we're looking at a year to 2 years, and maybe up to 10 years in stir for these people doing this kind of stuff, which they basically do every day of the week. But I say it's high time that it stopped, and you can put a stop to it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Just understanding authority and where it comes from, what its root is in our country, and the way our government is set up is a major benefit to people to simply understand that we are the authority, not government.
And so your argument is that the listener usually consents to the oppressions that he is put upon later, right? Is by consent we agree to be subject in these different ways. By consent and application.
Yeah, we consent to be subjects. And
we are conned and persuaded by fraud. Just my opinion also, but I don't think that you should accept the criminal activities of your local municipal corporation either, and or its Kangaroo Court. Pick up a copy of Crush Your Traffic Ticket today, which you can grab right here, and you can do it right now, and you will know how to crush your traffic ticket. And I really, it doesn't make any difference what your ticket is for. It is most likely a false arrest that you can and should prosecute with enthusiasm. Thank you very much.